Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Yumon Sang. I'm the founder and CEO of Churnzero. And with me is Caitlin Law, my colleague from Churnzero. And if you don't know Churnzero, we help your customer success teams really understand your customers, onboard them correctly, make them successful, and help them fight churn. So today, we're going to talk about essential metrics for your customer success teams. And these are the essential metrics that are overlooked. So why are they overlooked? Okay, so folks like myself, like your investors, your board, they're obsessed with NRR, net revenue retention. They're obsessed with NPS, net promoter score. And these are super important. I'm obsessed with those as well. I mean, I think those are top line metrics. But there's a difference between what the board wants to see and what your chief customer officer is doing. So these are metrics that are overlooked, but are super important to your chief customer officer, the CCO. So let me hand it over to Caitlin. She will go through some of them.
Hey, everyone. So the first metric that I want to talk about today is your up for renewal amount, or UFR. So this number is a clean representation of the dollars that you can retain. So a lot of customer success leaders don't have the tools or don't have the knowledge to accurately calculate this number, but it is really important to prioritize doing that because it's the foundation for assessing healthy revenue across all of your other categories. So there are 3 things that you can do right now to help find UFR. The first is identify your source of truth. We all have a lot of systems that we enter a lot of financial data into, and that shifts and changes, but you want to make sure you know exactly where to look for UFR and that everybody's looking at that same spot. The second thing is to build a culture of data cleanliness. Like I said, we keep layering on financial data, changes on contracts, things like that. We want everyone across the board to be obsessed with keeping clean data. And that comes to the third point, which is partner with your RevOps team. UFR is established in the sales cycle, and it carries with that customer through and through every renewal cycle. So your RevOps team really needs to understand where sales needs to put that amount and where every other team is going to look at that amount through and through.
Now, the interesting thing about UFR is, look, it's an obvious metric. Everyone needs to know it. The reason why we think it's overlooked is that the majority of CS teams don't know how to calculate it. So fix that, calculate it, and you'll be able to run a much smoother team.
Yep, keeping it rolling on revenue metrics. The next is gross revenue retention, or GRR. So this is really important to talk about because a lot of younger customer success organizations really focus on NRR, their net revenue retention, as the primary goal. But GRR is really sacred because it's what you use to assess whether the customers that you originally sold to are willing to continue that same spend with you cycle over cycle. GRR can also be really informative and insightful when you look at it next to your logo retention. Did you lose one major customer, or did you lose a lot of nickel and dime customers? So looking at those next to each other is really great. So calculating GRR, don't be daunted by the math formula. I'm not going to math at you right now. But there are only 3 data points that you really need to calculate your GRR. And those are the recurring revenue in that period, the total amount of churned revenue, and the total amount of downgrades or contractions in that period. So there are 3 things that you can do right now in order to create a better GRR. The first is ask yourself, are we spending enough on our customer success department? If you're not spending 5 to 15% of your company's revenue on your customer success department, you really need to revisit that and make an investment in your customer's experience. Because our number 2 is being obsessed with onboarding. Onboarding, as we all know, is the make or break moment for whether or not your customer is going to be satisfied and renew with you. So making sure you're investing in CS, and CS is owning onboarding that impacts every single account, is major to making sure that your GRR stays intact. And that brings you to the third point of investing in process. You need to invest in process to maintain your GRR, because when you define your customer life cycle and you can successfully guide a customer through the life cycle you've defined, your GRR should naturally maintain.
There's a couple things about GRR. One's pretty unfair, right? So GRR, if your customer shrinks with you, it hurts your GRR. Turns out if your customer expands with you, you don't get credit for it, right? So it's a limiting metric. It's often in the 80s and 90s. It can't be over 100. So it's kind of a punishing metric. But it's a really good metric. Like, for most of us, we focus on NRR, net revenue retention. That includes upsells, cross-sells, expansion. A good sales team, can really hide the sins of a bad product, right? So if you have a pretty good NRR, but a not so good GRR, you got to be careful as a founder, as a CS team. That means that your ability to do business is very, very strong, and maybe your ability to service your customer is weak. Maybe your product is weak. So that's where GRR is really important, is your product and your service doing well? So focus on GRR for that.
Absolutely. So that takes us to our third metric, which is customer satisfaction score, or CSAT. And yes, I do mean CSAT and not NPS, because this type of survey, it's extremely dynamic. You can meet your customer where they are in the customer life cycle. So it's giving you very intimate knowledge of their experiences with your team and with your defined process. So you can collect feedback at very specific moments, like when implementation is complete, when they close a support ticket, or if you do bespoke projects, getting feedback right on that. It's really easy to measure CSAT on a scale of 1 to 5. Just ask right away, because there are 4 things that I'm going to tell you about CSAT that are going to help you use this data effectively. The first is to be timely with the ask. As soon as that activity is done, send out this survey, and then act quickly on what the survey results are. If they give you a low score, like a 1 out of 5, talk to them. Why did that happen? What was your experience? How can we fix it? If it's a 5 out of 5, also talk to them right away. Thank you so much. What were the positive experiences that you had, so that we can lean into that a little bit more? The third is to go for a high response rate. We're going to throw a lot of surveys out to everybody who was involved, but we really want to see a lot of people giving us a survey response. And in order to do that, you would kind of need to be flexible with how you're going to be surveying. You can send it via email, but there are other options. You can ask live, you can send an in-app pop-up. You can do a lot of different things to increase your response rate and therefore validate the numbers that you're getting. The fourth is to segment by user type. While we would all love to believe that everyone's opinion is as important as the next person's, it's not true. We want to know what the executives think. We want to know what the decision makers think. We want to know what our buyers are thinking. And we want to be able to pull out those folks when we are assessing that data.
So let me make a comment about NPS versus CSAT. Bottom line, you need to do both. You need to ask for an NPS score once or twice a year, and you have to ask for a CSAT score once something happens, something is done, a ticket has been completed, an implementation has been done, right? So a CSAT is, are you satisfied with the service you just got, implementation, whatnot. NPS is, would you recommend, my company to a peer? I love NPS. My CCO loves CSAT. I like NPS because I care about the product. I care about customer success. I care about customer support. And my CCO cares about, is my team functioning well? So really 2 different things, but both super important. Which then really leads me to the key takeaway here of all these metrics, right? There are really 2 different types of metrics. One is about managing your CS team. We talked about that today. That's UFR, that's GRR, that's CSAT. These are metrics that are underutilized, and also sort of underwhelming for most executives, but super important for your CCO. When I'm managing a company, I care about NPS. I care about NRR. And then as my company gets bigger and bigger, I really, really care about GRR. Okay, so think about all those things when you think about all your customer success metrics. Kaylee and I are here to answer any questions you have. And you can also visit us at booth 241 in Hangar West. So come by and say hi. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for
Thank
taking the time.
you.
Appreciate it.